This is Smile and Scars, Ridge, Wood High buzzed with the usual chaos of students rushing to their lockers, friends laughing, and teachers calling out reminders about homework and upcoming tests. Lena Sager walked through the crowded hallways, trying to make herself small, hugging her books to her chest. She had only been at the school for a few days, and though she tried to stay invisible, the way she carried herself quiet, polite, and observant drew attention from the wrong crowd. 3 boys who had made a habit of tormenting new students noticed her immediately. Troy, the tall, cocky leader, grinned as he nudged his friends. Well, look who it is. The new girl, he said, spinning a basketball on his finger with lazy arrogance. Think you can just walk around here without saying hello? Lena tried to step aside and move past them. Excuse me, she said softly, but Troy blocked her path, stepping in front of her with a menacing smirk. Where are you going? Don't run off so fast. We want to get to know you. Mason, the second boy, snatched her notebook from her hands and flipped through the pages. Let's see what the genius writes about. Bet it's boring, he teased, holding the notebook out of her reach. Give it back, Lena said calmly, though her hands trembled slightly. Kyle, the third boy, shoved her lightly against the lockers, testing her balance. Come on, tough girl. Don't be shy. Stand your ground if you can, he jeered. Lena stumbled, but quickly recovered, taking a step back. She didn't raise her voice. Please, just give it back. Mason laughed cruelly. Or what? You gonna cry? Troy stepped closer, towering over her. You should learn the rules here. We run things. You follow or you get out of the way. Lena's heart raced, but she didn't panic. She had learned to stay calm, to measure her actions carefully. Yet, in a moment of recklessness, Troy grabbed her arm and yanked her roughly. A sharp, sudden crack echoed through the hallway. Lena cried out in pain, falling to her knees, clutching her arm. Students nearby gasped, stepping back. Some covered their mouths in shock. The bullies froze for a moment, unsure of the reaction their actions had caused. Troy looked down at her with a mix of surprise and arrogance. I didn't mean, he stammered. But before the sentence could finish, the hallway doors opened with a soft but commanding swing. A tall figure appeared, his presence immediately noticeable. He wasn't yelling, he wasn't running, he simply walked in, and yet, every step seemed to command the attention of the room. Victor Sager's eyes scanned the hall, calm, focused, and intimidating. Every movement of his body was controlled, every step deliberate. He didn't rush. He didn't need to. The aura around him demanded respect without a single word. Lena's lips trembled as she whispered, Dad. The bullies' laughter faltered, confidence drained from their bodies as if the air itself had changed. The once boastful expressions were replaced by a mix of fear, confusion, and disbelief. Victor crouched beside Lena, gently examining her arm. It's okay, sweetheart, he said softly. His voice was calm, almost tender, but every syllable carried an unspoken warning. The hallway felt smaller, tighter, as if the world had paused to observe the moment. Students stopped in their tracks, forming a wide, cautious circle around the scene. Whispers spread. Who is that? He looks dangerous. He's her father. Victor stood slowly, each movement smooth and deliberate. He did not rush toward the bullies. He didn't raise a hand. He simply took one step forward, and the hallway seemed to shrink around him. Troy swallowed hard, his bravado evaporating. Mason and Kyle instinctively stepped back, unsure whether to flee or apologize. Their laughter, once so bold, had completely vanished. Victor's gaze locked on Troy. It wasn't angry, it wasn't vengeful. It was something sharper, colder, a quiet force that made the boys' stomachs twist with immediate regret. He spoke, his voice soft but clear. An apology is a start, but apologies don't erase what you've done. Mason opened his mouth to speak, but found no words. Kyle's legs felt weak. Troy's knees trembled. They had no idea who they were dealing with, no idea that Lena's father was not only present, but capable of a force they could not comprehend. Victor knelt beside Lena briefly, carefully holding her arm. We'll get this checked, he said quietly, his calm presence giving her comfort amid the pain. Then he rose. His eyes never left the boys. You see, he continued, hurting someone who cannot defend themselves is easy. It's cowardice. Strength isn't measured in dominance or intimidation. It's measured in restraint, in control, in knowing your limits and respecting others. The boys trembled, suddenly aware that everything they thought they knew about power was wrong. They had mocked, shoved, and hurt Lena, but in the presence of her father, their arrogance was meaningless. Victor's calm, controlled demeanor created a tension so heavy that even the teachers standing nearby hesitated. No one moved. The lesson was unfolding silently, but its impact was unmistakable. Finally, Victor turned toward Lena, wrapping his jacket gently around her shoulders. "Let's go," he said softly, helping her to stand. As they walked down the hallway, the bullies remained frozen, hearts racing, minds replaying the lesson over and over. They had underestimated someone based on appearances, and now they knew confidence without respect, arrogance without awareness, can lead to immediate regret. The whispers of students spread like wildfire. "Did you see her father? He didn't even touch them, and they're terrified. I've never felt that kind of presence before." For Lena, the fear and pain in her arm were overshadowed by the relief of having her father nearby. She realized that strength didn't always come from fighting. Sometimes it came from someone who could stop chaos with nothing more than calm authority. By the time they exited the building, the lesson had left a permanent mark. Troy, Mason, and Kyle didn't speak to her again. They didn't dare look in her direction. They had learned, without words, that crossing the wrong person can leave consequences far greater than expected. And Lena, she had learned another lesson, that even in moments of fear and pain, strength and protection could come from the quiet presence of someone who truly cared. The hallways of Ridgewood High would never forget that day. Not because of violence, not because of shouting, but because a quiet father and his daughter had reminded everyone what real strength looked like. Victor Sager led Lena out of the crowded hallway, her arms still throbbing with pain. Every step he took was deliberate, measured, radiating calm authority. The bullies Troy, Mason, and Kyle remained frozen in the hall, their confidence shattered. They had expected a scolding, maybe a confrontation, perhaps even an argument. What they got instead was presence, raw, commanding, and impossible to ignore. Victor's voice broke the silence, soft but filled with an undeniable weight. "You hurt someone weaker than you," he said. "Do you understand what that means?" Troy stammered, sweat dripping down his forehead. I didn't mean to." Victor's gaze cut through him like steel. "Intent doesn't erase action. Strength without responsibility is nothing more than cruelty." Mason's face paled, and Kyle's hands fidgeted nervously. They had no idea how to respond. The hallway had become a courtroom, and Victor Sager was the judge, jury, and sentence all in one. Students nearby whispered, stealing glances. "Who is he?" one murmured. "He didn't even have to touch them, and they're terrified." Victor crouched slightly, checking Lena's arm again. "It's bruised, but you'll be fine," he assured her softly, his hand steady and reassuring. "We'll get it looked at, make sure it heals properly." Lena nodded, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear, awe, and gratitude. She had always known her father was skilled, disciplined, and strong, but seeing that calm authority in action, seeing how the bullies shrank before him, was something else entirely. Victor stood tall again, turning to face the boys fully. "You will learn a lesson today," he said quietly, his voice carrying across the hall. "It may not be one you enjoy, but it will be one you never forget." Troy tried to straighten himself, attempting to regain some semblance of pride. We didn't know she was your daughter," he muttered, voice shaking. Victor didn't flinch. "You didn't need to know. Respect is not optional, and cruelty always comes with consequences. You should have treated her with kindness simply because she deserved it." The hallway grew colder, heavier, charged with tension. Every student who witnessed the scene felt it, the invisible weight of authority, the unspoken warning, the lesson being delivered without violence, without a single raised hand. Victor's eyes scanned the boys, slow and deliberate, noting every reaction. "You think you are brave because you intimidate others," he said. "You think power comes from fear, but real power—" He paused, voice dropping lower. comes from control, from discipline, from knowing when not to strike. You right now are learning that lesson the hard way." Troy swallowed hard, his bravado completely gone. Mason's knees wobbled, and Kyle looked as if he might faint. The fear wasn't just about physical harm, it was the recognition of an authority so complete, so unshakable, that no words or gestures could challenge it. Victor's presence alone had delivered punishment more effective than a fist ever could. The bullies understood, viscerally, that they had misjudged the situation, that their arrogance had put them at the mercy of someone whose calm mastery could crush them without moving. Victor crouched beside Lena one last time, giving her a reassuring glance. "You are strong," he said softly, "strong enough to face them, strong enough to trust that I will be here when needed." Lena nodded, feeling a surge of pride despite the pain. He then stood and gestured for Lena to follow him. "Let's go," he said simply. As they walked down the hallway, the students watched silently, the bullies still frozen in their shame. No one dared speak, no one dared move. Victor's footsteps echoed softly, deliberate, measured, leaving a trail of awe in his wake. Outside the school, sunlight bathed the parking lot. Lena leaned slightly on her father, still sore but safe. "Dad, thank you," she whispered. Victor smiled faintly, his calmness unwavering. "You don't need me to intervene every time," he said, "but today you needed me, and that's enough." Inside the school, the story spread quickly. Whispers grew into hushed conversations. "Did you see her father? He didn't even touch them, and they're terrified. I've never seen someone command respect like that without raising a hand." The bullies didn't speak again. They didn't dare approach Lena for the rest of the week, perhaps longer. The lesson had been burned into their minds. Arrogance without awareness is a dangerous mistake, and crossing the wrong person has consequences beyond imagination. Days later, Lena healed. Her arm, once tender and swollen, began to regain strength, but the memory of that hallway, of her father's calm authority, stayed with her. It was a lesson about power, control, and responsibility, a lesson she would carry forever. Victor never shouted, never struck, yet the impact of that day reshaped the social hierarchy of Ridgewood High. Respect, he had shown, was earned not through intimidation, but through presence, mastery, and discipline. And for Lena, the experience gave her more than safety. It gave her courage, awareness, and an understanding of true strength, one that came from within, and was reinforced by those who protect with wisdom, not aggression. By the time they returned home, Victor placed his hand gently on Lena's shoulder. "Remember this," he said. "Real power is silent. It waits, it observes, and when the time comes, it teaches the lesson you cannot ignore." Lena nodded, her pain replaced by pride and awe. She understood now that the world could be cruel, but it also held guardians calm, strong, and unshakable. Guardians who could turn fear into respect, arrogance into humility, and threats into life lessons. The bullies at Ridgewood High never forgot that day. Neither did the students who watched in awe. And Lena, she grew stronger not just physically, but mentally, carrying with her the quiet, unstoppable power of her father. The lesson was clear. Sometimes the greatest impact comes not from fists, not from anger, but from calm authority, unwavering control, and the knowledge that crossing the wrong person leaves instant, unforgettable regret.